I want to talk today, we're continuing with this book study that we're doing on the journey, and we will have a workshop next Saturday about that, which will be a kind of a culmination, and Michael himself will be leading it. I think it'll be worth your while. It's most of the day on Saturday. But let me talk to you about something that I'll just read his introduction to this thought for the week. When we silence the mind and send it inward, the fullness of spirit, unfettered by the senses, awaits our discovery. As our consciousness expands and our ego dissolves, there are moments when we break free from our restricted states of awareness. We rise above our attachments and aversions, likes and dislikes, expectations and disappointments, into an endless space filled with infinite potential. This unshackling of the mind and detachment from the senses comes silence of existence being and the soul peace, born of spirit, blossoms into the profoundness of realization. The deeper we dive into the spirit within, the more subtle the experience and the more profound the realization. Sounds good, doesn't it? In science today, one of the things that everybody's talking about is AI meaning artificial intelligence, and its ability to replicate many of the things that we think we were the only ones on the planet who could do it. It can write poetry, it can do art, it can answer problems, many things that we thought only humans can do. And it's turning out that with enough computing power and enough time, we can teach these machines to do it for us. And so while it may not be the most spectacular yet, it's impressive what they can do. And they'll only get better. It's a little intimidating, isn't it, to think you could be replaced? And the more advanced you are in education, the more quickly you'll be replaced rather than less, because it can do what took us years to do, it can learn to do fairly quickly. But that's not the problem that I'm going to talk about. The problem we have is the problem that science calls the problem of consciousness. The problem of consciousness. Now, most of us say, what's the problem? I'm conscious. Most of the time. They have not been able to figure out with MRIs, fMRIs, with AI, with anything, they have not yet solved the question of how we are aware. And the awareness is one of the big 5 questions in philosophy, and always has been, but it certainly is still today. Why or what is this awareness, and how does it happen? Is it an epiphenomenon, I mean, does it come out of the brain, or is it primary? Is it there already? And the idea that it comes out of the brain has been answered a long time ago by the Vedantic tradition in India, starting about 5,000 years ago. They just watched what's happening in their own experience. And watching that, they noticed that there was content and there was awareness. Now, this is a critical point here, content and awareness. So you have the content in your own experience of the thoughts you've had, the emotions you've had, the sensations in the body. You have a story, you have that's content. But what is it that is aware of that? And that awareness has never left you. Even if you lose your sight, you're still aware. Even if your memory goes, there's still awareness. This awareness is what is the core of this question and the core of the answer at the same time. If you can watch, you watching, if you can be aware that you're aware, now you're looking at the thing they're trying to explain. Consciousness. And that, when they're talking about consciousness, they're not talking about the content of your consciousness, not the story, the sensations, the feelings, the thoughts you have. Not that. That's not what they're talking about in consciousness. What they're talking about is this, that sees, feels, perceives, the one that is aware of that, one that is there. Boom. Now, if you injure your brain in certain ways, certain things will be diminished, and you won't be able to use, let's say, sight or hearing, or the emotional content might change and all that, but that's not the consciousness they're talking about. And neither is everything that AI can do. That is not consciousness. That is content. And the question of consciousness is where, how, what is that? And it's one of those perennial questions that has been in philosophy forever. You know, it's like, who am I? How can I know anything? Etc. But this is one of them that still is on the table. What is awareness itself? Now, I think a way of approaching this consciousness is also to ask, is it individual or is it only one? Is there only one consciousness with individual locations playing it out or experiencing it, but is it universal? And to get to that question, I think you should try this thought experiment right now, which is essentially see how spacious your mind, your experience can be. Can you be expanding in your sense of self to the point where you see your thoughts inside your spaciousness? Now, so many of us, most of the time, are completely identified, or overly identified maybe, with the content of our minds, what we're thinking, feeling, our plans, our thoughts, our history. And you know, I've often said, you know, if you can stop the story, you might be able to adjust your feelings. But if you could stop identifying with it in the first place, then you start to move back into the space that is aware of it. And this space now becomes more of who you are, because this space has been here all the time. No matter how much the story changed, no matter how your feelings changed or what your thoughts did, this space of awareness has been here the whole time. And that's the problem of awakening, of not only what is the problem of consciousness, it is how do you get there and stay there. That is the process of awakening. And we have talked about it for years, you know, by saying our mission statement. We are a spiritual community awakening to our divine nature through love, service, and personal transformation. And that divine nature is indeed this awareness. Your divine nature is that awareness. And it does relate to the divine as a part to the whole. It is part of that one presence, one power. When we speak of the one presence, one power, there's several ways to interpret it, but one clear and almost undeniable one is the one presence, one power of awareness. Because you, as an example of that divine nature, all content sits inside your awareness. It's a little tricky to get sometimes. All you have ever known, which means your whole world, everything is inside your consciousness. It doesn't mean there's not something out there, but for as far as you are concerned, all of it is inside your consciousness. Your enemy, your lover, your dog, your food, your story, your emotions, It's inside this consciousness, right? Who are you going to identify? If you were sitting in front of your TV and something happened on the screen in the TV, we have a sympathetic or empathetic response to it. But we have a little bit of recognition that that's on TV. That's not me. Now, this political season has made that harder for some people, but that's over there and you are watching it. And to some degree, that's a good analogy of what's happening with consciousness and the content of your life. It has always been this awareness. It's always been here. You never have to go get it. You never get away from it. It is it itself. It is the clear light through which you see. And that, when you get that that is who you are, then your emotions are more like on TV than they are like, oh, I am so angry, right? I am so angry. It's like, well, as a friend of mine who said she's awake, says the character says that. The character says I'm angry. And the character has those experiences, but I can recognize that I am not just the character. Right? Are you with me? This is a subtle but very useful thing to know, is that your awareness could be your identity rather than the content of what's in there. And when it's the content is who you are, then you rise and fall with your success and failure. When you sit in the seat of awareness, then success and failure happens. But you are pristine. You are whole. You are at one with everything, and you don't have to do avoidance or desire with the same intensity if this is all you are. Because if this is all you are, you need to win. You need to have it your way. It needs to be okay, because you're not okay unless this character has what it wants. But if you can slide into this awareness, now you have perspective, distance, freedom, peace. And that's what Michael was talking about. When you move into the spaciousness of your own awareness and do not get attached to the content of your mind. Now, I was trying to do this last week, and so this is really an extension of what we were talking about last week. If you use peripheral vision as your way of holding space as you're looking out into the world, this tends to give you another sensation of what it's like to be the spaciousness rather than the content. Because when I go to read this, I have to really focus, and it brings me into the content that is in front of me. But when I'm like this, I see that the whole world is inside of my awareness. And you hear these gurus say, yeah, I see the whole world inside of me. And I think, I remember reading that decades ago and going, wow, that must be a transcendent experience. But you're doing it now. You just don't recognize it. All the content in the world that you're aware of is inside your awareness. That's the nature of it. It's not magic. It's not something you have to get to. You just have to play with it. Play with this being in my consciousness. Play with it, not like you're a sinner having to get to be saved, not like you're an evolutionary slowpoke and you're having, you've gone from ant to monkey to person, but you're still struggling. No, play with it. Open your mind. Feel how everything is inside your experience, right? Is there anything outside your experience that you're aware of? obvious answer, right? No, nothing. So it's all inside there. It's waiting. What's waiting for you is to turn your attention from that to that. From the one that is seen to the seer. From the it to the I. Are you with me? So this is what this practice can be, which is try considering that everything that's in your mind is merely content. Everything that's in your mind is content. But you're the container for the content. Your body's in your container, your mind's in your container, your experiences are in your container, your story is in your container. And how many times do we get tripped up by thinking we are our story? Oh, I could never do that because as a child, someone said something to me and I've never been able to do that since. I do that every day when the choir says, "Why don't you sing with us?" I go, "Someone told me I couldn't sing, so I'm never going to do it." Right? I would think that was an anomaly, except that I've had this mic on occasion and they didn't cut it off and they were broadcasting it and people go, "Now I know what you mean." Content is not the same as the container. And this distinction can free your mind, to use a Morpheus term, free your mind. To get to another place, a place that is connected with all consciousness, that puts you in tune with the one presence, the one power, because think of it, this awareness is what holds everything. It holds everything. And what would you call something that holds everything? God. So God is this spaciousness that holds the content of all. And that, when you come back into your spaciousness, you step into space of that. And now you're no longer separate, but one with the one. You are that which you were always thinking you were not. You are not the other. Now you are the same. You are it. I and the Father are one. Boop. That's how you get there. You don't get there by being perfect in the traditional sense. Now, if you are a murderer, you're probably going to have a disturbed mind that's going to be so powerfully disturbed that it's hard for you to find the space to get out of it. You're collapsed into that experience. If you are extremely angry, it's hard to get there. If you have really bad habits, it's hard to get there. If you're ungenerous, if you're, greedy, it's hard to get there. If you're afraid, it's hard to get there. So practicing being a good person with good habits that eats the right things so that their biome is not against them, does what they should, which all the content, all the doing that we know we should do, we should definitely do it. But to get out of this world, baby, drop back. Fall back into that. Fall into the spaciousness. And then you can, now it takes I was going to say it takes trust, but this is not really a trust issue so much. It's a play issue. Play like you're a newborn. Play like this is the first time you've seen it. And if you, I told you we did this guy, Richard Lang, and he says, if you really look out there, the world's an oval, the whole thing, right? That's all you can see. It's all right there. It happens to be, you have that direct experience right then. Right now, when you see the world as an oval, you realize that it's inside your seeingness, right? Inside your awareness. It's all in there. And funny thing, it moves when you do, right? More different content. Wow, check that out. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, even more over here. I bet there's some back there, but I don't know. Oh, yes, there is. It is, your awareness is what encapsulates everything that you're aware of, right? It's really simple. But we can't see it sometimes because we're definitely connected to the content as who we are, right? So now, Unity has been on this for a while, and we have these things called affirmations and denials. And the affirmation often talks about a quality of the divine that we can claim for ourselves. But a denial is often used to break the spell of whatever thing we're going through right now. And it's largely done this way, and this is a shorthand version, but essentially saying that nothing that is in my content has control over me, has the power over me. And when you hear that, and you hear it in this vein, what you're saying is nothing in this content can control the awareness. It's inside it, but it doesn't control it. There's no control there. The control, the power, the real power is the awareness itself. And nothing that's in here can control my awareness. Now you're free. Now you have space to build different content because you're not magnetically attracted to what's in there right now. You have broken the spell. So you deny it has power over you. And if you play the game of awareness, then it's not hard to get that that doesn't have any power over you because there's content, but not now, there's content. Do you see? It's your awareness that matters. And you turn your face away from the evil and the pain, and you look to the good, and now that's your experience. And so your experience can be improved simply by being able to rest in awareness. Because now you're flexible, you're smarter, you're freer. You know that nothing is you, it is only your content. So that's why we talk about you're not your body, because you have a body. You don't, right? It's in the language already. And what we want people to be somebody. We want them to be a body because we then think we can control them. That's true. But you're not a body. And when you're generous with yourself, you recognize that you have freedom to alter what's in the content. But even if you don't, you're in a place of peace, which is so much better than just being on that joyride, especially when the joyride's going to hell. Right? So this is the game. Practice being the awareness. Play with it. Walk around looking at the one that's looking rather than looking at the thing. And of course, at times, if you want to read, you can't always be able to focus in two directions at once, but then come back at some moment and become that presence again. That so. Nothing in my world has control over me. You could start with that. What a bold but true statement when you are the awareness. And when you're in the content, it doesn't even feel true. But from the awareness, it is already true. Let us pray. If your eyes are closed, then soften the muscles around the eyes. Let the face relax. As the face relaxes, maybe you can realize that that face is not who you are either. Let the chest and legs and arms relax. And maybe you can let that body not be you either. And feel your emotions. And recognize that they are your emotions, but they are not yours. You have them, but they don't come to the level of it being you. You just have them. Now expand your mind and imagine what it would be like to be spaciousness alone. We used to sing the peace song here a lot. Let there be peace on earth. In other words, peace in my content. And let it begin with me. You are the peace. And the presence. And you're one with the one. And as Walter Cronkite would say, and that's the way it is. Enjoy. You got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.